Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Gaiji Goomba, and well, we're off back to Winch Ninja. So today's ninja on deck is Goemon. More specifically, the mythical ninja Goemon from the Nintendo 64. So this one's titled Ganbare Goemon, the Anti-Ninja. Oh, okay, Goemon in real life, if I remember correctly, was a thief, most likely. Though I think more Kabuki, Jiraiya kind of deal. If I remember, like I said, it's been a while since looked up Goemon, so I don't know exactly what he was. I guess they just lump him in with ninjas, though I'm not sure if he actually was a technical ninja, but you'll get the idea. Well, let's get to it. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's check it out.
Hey everyone, Gaijin Goomba here.
Yo.
So, yeah, in our last video diving into the bizarre shinobi inspirations of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat of all things, we teased the concept of Goemon and asked ourselves, why haven't we done a video on Ganbare Goemon yet?
Yep.
So we said, you know what, screw it, let's put it on the next Patreon list of topics to be voted on. And don't
there we
crap,
go.
You guys. Have
No
you
shadows,
been wanting
no
this
Warframe.
video
We're off
this
to Ganbare
badly?
Goemon.
Well, we're happy to oblige because the weird thing about Ganbare Goemon and Goemon in general is that he's not a bad ninja, but he's not really a good ninja in a historical sense. Goemon, in his entirety, is more of an anti-ninja. And more on that in a second. I gotta go
we'll
see
learn
if
more about
Bossman's
that.
ready to start editing.
Right. Yo.
Hey. Dude, are you okay?
Yeah, just a bit of a rough night.
What, not sleeping? What happened to that new mattress of yours?
Oh, that thing? I gave it to a couple of friends. They really needed a new mattress.
What?
Look, man, their
what do you
frame
leave
was
it on,
split
then?
down the middle, and their mattress was folded in, so they kept rolling in on each other. And,
Yikes.
you know, it's Christmas time. I still had my old bed, so I figured I'd just give them my Helix mattress for Christmas. I mean, listen what they're saying about it.
I think what I like the most about it is the cooling gel. It
Oh,
really
hello.
feels like I am sleeping in a winter night, where like I go into bed, the bed's nice and cold, and the warm blanket just warm me up immediately.
See, I like the bed because it's really soft. Like, we're sitting on it right now and we're kind of sinking into the bed. But for me, I'm a side sleeper, so I sink into the bed just enough that I don't have any pain after sleeping. Because our old bed was a really firm, hard bed, and I would have to sleep very specifically, so that way I didn't wake up with like my shoulder too far forward or too far back, or my neck crooked or anything like that. This bed
Oh,
is so
sweet.
soft that it conforms to me, and I don't wake up with pain almost ever now with this new bed. It's amazing.
See, how this all works is that Helix does
Yeah,
this
sleep quiz,
amazing
look at
job
that.
with its sleep quiz to make sure that you get the mattress that you need. Taking into account how soft or firm you need, how hot and cold you sleep, whether or not you sleep on your front, side, or back, and whether you sleep alone or not, and even what kind of body pains and aches you suffer through the night in your current bed. Big and tall or short and young, between their
Oh,
20
cute.
different mattress types, there's something that anyone at any age can find
Okay.
here for a good night's rest. And it's shipped in a box small enough to fit right under your tree. With the only thing you really need to do for setup is just take it out of the box, open its seal, and let it poof up like snow. So, if you or a loved one are in need of a silent night of restful sleep, you can't go wrong with Helix. Legit. My friends told me it was a great holiday gift for them, and I know it could be for so many others. Check out my link in the description at helixsleep.com/gaijingoomba to get 20% off your order of gingerbread dreams plus 2 free pillows to lay down your sweet head.
Alright, enough of the terrible holiday puns.
So, yeah, I'm good, man.
Sure,
So,
you good?
which ninja on Goemon? Doesn't that seem kind of simple? I mean, the original game, Mr. Goemon, was completely built around the character of Goemon based on the Kabuki play Kimogosa no Kiri, wasn't it? I mean, look at this character design
Yeah,
and
true.
tell
You
me
can see
it's
the
not
pipe
just
in
the
there.
costume Kabuki character. Not to mention, the game starts off with the exact same curtain pull and clack of the Hyoshiki as a Kabuki play does. And as far as gameplay goes, you're just going from one side of the stage to the other while collecting and projectile throwing various positive icons of traditional Japan at, I'm guessing these are Doshin officers? I mean, their mechanic is grabbing Goemon and tying him down over time until you essentially die. All the while, if you can dodge the Doshin, you collect boxes of gold and other goodies at the end of the stage. And that's all kind of part and parcel to the Kabuki play, as there are actual attempts by Doshin to capture Goemon, only for them to fail. Even the Kiseru pipe that Goemon bashes people with in-game is still highly iconic to the Kabuki play, as the scene of Goemon viewing out the spring day as he holds one, saying, "They say that a spring view is worth 1,000 gold pieces, but too little, too little. These eyes of Goemon rate it worth 10,000. Which also happens to be the inciting incident of the play. During this entire time, he's holding that Kiseru pipe, making it incredibly famous. So, I don't know, man. Even with the now classic design of the character and mechanics, doesn't it all just stem from the original Kabuki depiction?
Could be.
I mean, even modern Goemon retains that obvious Kabuki makeup, so what makes Goemon all that special or that ninja?
I mean, if you only want to focus on the first game that came out in the 80s, or
True.
include the hyper-modernizations of Boken Jidai Goemon or Goemon New Age, yeah,
a thing.
Goemon isn't really all that ninja one way or another. But it's the classic design between these two eras, the iconic design, and the game mechanics that came with it with this age of Goemon that leads me to believe that this Goemon of Konami Classics, as well as the historical Goemon, for the two cannot be separated, are the biggest anti-ninjas in Japan. And I say historical in quotations because while Ishikawa Goemon, the man, did in fact exist, we don't know to what degree of a person that they were. I mean, we know about
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, again, I don't know how many records of Goemon actually existed, or at least we're able to keep track of. Like, think about it. There's a lot unknown about this guy, so I'm not surprised. So, I guess we are going on context, legends, and all that, so let's keep going.
their actual existence because Toyotomi Hideyoshi wrote about him in his personal diaries, though he only mentioned that he was a mere thief and nothing more. Now, this is in fact the only historical context we ever see Goemon in, and even it is a fairly unreliable narrator because Hideyoshi hated Goemon. And we'll get to that can of worms in a bit, but I
Right.
bring this all up here to drive
Sorry,
home
Hideyoshi.
that the legends that we know of Goemon may or may not be true. I mean, it doesn't help too that there are two versions of Goemon's story that have been told throughout the centuries. In one version, he was born Sanada Kuranoshin in 1558 to a warrior family in Iga under the service of the Miyoshi clan, when tragically his father was killed when he was still a teenager. Seeking out the vengeance of his father, he sought out and began training under Iga ninja legend Momochi Sandayu. Though that really didn't last too long because Goemon was caught getting frisky with one of Sandayu's mistresses.
Oh boy.
From there, he fled as a nuke-nin, or runaway ninja, with not only the secret trainings of Sandayu in his mind, but his ex-teacher's prize sword in his hand. Now, there is another subdivision of this already subdivided origin story. In this, Goemon lived with Sandayu's sword in one hand and his wife in the other. Yeah, not mistress, wife.
Wow.
But if you think that's just Goemon being cheeky, well,
Could
this
be.
is also the part of the story where I have to mention just how violent, brash, hot-headed, and kinda horrible Ishikawa Goemon was. At least
Oh
in this
boy.
interpretation of the story. Despite being banished for stealing Sandayu's woman, Goemon inevitably killed her because she, quote, slowed him down.
Yeesh.
And no, that's not a paraphrase. Goemon got so mad that the woman he essentially wooed and ran off with, sacrificing his relationship with Sandayu, was keeping him from traveling faster, making him so angry that he straight up unlifed her. Though there is the other variation of the
Okay.
story where Goemon was born Gorokizu in Kawachi province and had no ninja training whatsoever. He simply moved to the Kansai area where he adopted his better-known name and just started robbing nobles, priests, and merchants like it was nothing. With one of Goemon's biggest heist attempts
Must be the
being the
guy.
stealing of the golden Shachihoko atop Nagoya Castle. Now, up to this point, in both versions of the story, Goemon was a leader of a group of bandits who masqueraded as merchants, which, to be completely fair, is legit
Yeah,
one of the
one of
Shinobi
them.
Shichihode choices of impersonation.
See?
And they did,
hide
in
in plain
fact, steal from the rich and gave to the poor, but history is not sure if this supposed benevolence was real or not. Some
modern
sources state
interpretation.
that Goemon would give riches to the poor only in order to throw off local police and essentially place the blame of the various thefts on the people that he gave the goods to, scapegoating everyday men and women to keep his own hands clean. This is why there's such a crazy dichotomy when it comes to the folklore of Goemon. Also, quick side note, this split in
Ninja?
folklore origins also is why you see a sleek, traditionally ninja depiction of Goemon in one piece of media, and why there's also a chunky chungus version of Goemon in others. It's Iga trained ninja versus regular bandit Goemon. Finally, we have two different
Just,
ways in which folklore tells how Goemon was caught and executed. In one version, Goemon attempted to assassinate Hideyoshi at Fushimi Castle as Hideyoshi murdered his wife Otaki and captured his son Gobe. However, he knocked over a bell in Hideyoshi's room and was immediately seized. And another version states that Goemon wanted Hideyoshi dead solely on the premise that he was a despotic jerk-off. Which, yeah, he really was, by the way.
Ouch.
Though this time, during the assassination attempt, he was sussed out by a magic incense burner. Which, hands down, I have no idea how that worked at all. Regardless of how he was caught, Goemon and his son were boiled alive as punishment. And his final words were, even if the sands on the rivers and the shores ran out, the seeds of thieves would never die. Indeed, I stole a fortune. It is true that I am a thief. But you're also a thief, because you stole the whole country of Japan. Again, Goemon straight spitting facts here. So what does this tell us about Goemon as a ninja? Well, for one, he may not have ever been one. In one of those background stories, he just jumped directly into banditry, but in the case of the version where he studied under Sandayu and actually became Iga Ninja trained, I would still say that he's very much an anti-ninja. Not a bad ninja, for he was obviously skilled in thievery and sneaking and such, but as the Bansen Shukai points out under Sesshin 1, the correct mind,
For his own
if a shinobi
interests.
steals for his
Oh my
own
God.
interest, which is against common morals, how can the gods or Buddha protect him? Those who are following this path should appear most gentle and kind-hearted and act right with justice and reason from the bottom of their heart. You should always strictly abstain from alcohol, lust, and greed. Never indulge
Yeah,
in
that
any
does
of
sound like Goemon
These
doing
three
it.
vices are your enemies, which deprive you of yourself and your better nature. Since ancient times, there have been countless people who have indulged in alcohol, lust, or greed and ended up giving away strategy or having a serious influence on the outcome of things. So, safe to say, these are not things that define Ishikawa Goemon. Like, despite his generosity of giving stolen riches, I can't get away from the fact that he gave into his
True
own
lust, no?
interests of his master's wife/mistress, as well as stealing his master's sword for his own benefit. Not to mention that Goemon allowed his emotions to completely fuel his actions. From his vow of revenge at the age of 15, to being caught with Sandayu's wife, to the murder of his new lover, to even the true reasoning behind his stealing from rich to give to the poor, much of Goemon's actions were fueled by emotion, and emotions are not something that a ninja allows to control them. They are the masters of controlling emotions, others as well as their own. Ishikawa Goemon was good at being a ninja, that much is clear. But the fact that he acted out of selfishness and became a nuke-nin for it just makes him far more of an anti-ninja, skilled in the art but corrupt at its heart. So,
Yeah, that actually does make sense in a way. Like, sure, ninjas were more like just straight to the point. This guy loved to make a show, I guess. You know? I mean, considering everything. I mean, he's in the Kabuki theaters, so I'm not surprised. And yeah, he definitely does sound like the guy to hold a grudge, which, considering what he tried to do to Hideyoshi, not surprised. You know? Anyway.
by now I'm guessing you're all wondering what in the world does this have to do with Ganbare Goemon's Goemon. And I apologize for the wait, but you need to understand all the folkloric backgrounds of Ishikawa Goemon to understand why Goemon in-game not only mirrors his historical counterpart, warts and all, but also the possible reasonings behind some of his gameplay mechanics, and again, why he's like the ultimate anti-ninja of all of video games. First of all, Goemon in-game has always been described as hot-headed with a strong temperament. A good heart, but is often quick to rude statements and brash action, which is something we can easily
sense.
see even in the weirdly translated Mystical Ninja localized versions of the Ganbare Goemon games we got in the West. I mean, sure, it's toned down a lot compared to the historical figure. I mean, Goemon in-game never puts his girlfriend Obitsu to the sword. But I don't think this is the case of a stereotypical bullheaded hero. I think the character design of, well, Goemon's character does come directly from his historical counterpart, as does sort of his anti-ninja mentality. Goemon is always going headfirst directly into danger, and as much as I love the guy, this is absolutely not ninja. Same goes for his physical character design as well. I mean, the only thing on this man that's blue is his hair, and arguably his eyes. And that's not gonna help very much for blending in.
Oh yeah, the red
Nor
stuff.
is going unmasked with a very recognizable face. I mean, Goemon does wear a shinobi shozoku, but it's so insanely bright red that, yeah, good luck hiding in a country that's 80% contrasting green forest. And
true.
yes, I know this serves the purpose of giving the character a unique and recognizable design for branding purposes. I'm not an idiot. But it still is rather anti-ninja, possessing the garments of the Mononofu, but being more of a parody than something historical. But now we
Yeah,
come
get
down to
this thing.
Goemon's weapons, and this
More
is the
character.
aspect of the character that I've been so freaking stoked to talk about when it
Huh?
came to his historical counterpart. First off, we have the one consistent weapon in all variations of Goemon's games that he uses. His giant Kiseru pipe that he clubs enemies with. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering why in the heck Goemon uses this, and no, I don't think it's just because Kabuki play. First
be.
thing to know is that Kiseru pipes are expensive as all get out in the Edo period. This thing was only affordable by the super high class to smoke the equally expensive Kizami hair-thin tobacco. And from 1570 to
Back in the rich
1868,
root-
this was
rich
the
objects,
only
okay.
way to smoke, and it wasn't cheap. In fact, Kiseru pipes were so valuable that they were often kept in equally valuable cases, either covered in gold-encrusted precious gems or very, very exquisite leather.
So, what's a
why,
status
oh
symbol?
lord, why is Goemon using this as a basic club? You'd think something this exquisite and this expensive would be used for anything but, right? Well, two things. One is that Kiseru Jutsu
Oh.
did exist in the Edo period.
Yikes.
Yeah, an entire martial arts school was devoted
Really?
to this overpriced pipe being used as an impromptu beat stick.
Damn.
And if you know anything about
Again,
ninja,
ninjas
it's that
use
they are
anything they can get
masters
their
of
hands on.
impromptu weapons. In fact, so practiced was the art of Kiseru Jutsu that there were specific Kiseru pipes made for the martial art. The Buyo Kiseru is one such example, being 16 inches long, made from bronze and iron, and easily hidden in the obi. And then there was the Genka Kiseru, which were 12 to 18 inches long, made out of cast iron, and also used as parrying clubs. However, that did not mean that these weaponized Kiseru were cheap and easy to make. They were impromptu weapons, sure, and you could absolutely clobber someone with them, but these were still tools of the ultra-rich. Now, go back to Goemon for a second.
Yeah,
What is the one thing that he had in abundance more than seemingly any other resource according to history and folklore?
Cash?
Money!
Yeah.
See, this to me is what makes Goemon the ultimate anti-ninja. See, ninja were not well off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were
Left off
hired by
land.
warlords for
Guarantees.
intel gathering for sure, but they lived in isolated, hard-to-reach villages and relied solely on their resourcefulness with plants, animals, vegetation, and other natural resources that they had on hand. They were minimalists and applied their skills as such. Metal was rare. Manufacturing was on an individual level. Historical ninja just did not have a lot of financial resources. But now you've got Ishikawa Goemon over here who is so good at banditry that he's giving out riches to the poor for one reason or another, and Goemon was not a minimalist shinobi. His greatest resource was cash. So in a weird,
That's
twisted
fine.
kind of way, Goemon in-game using an extremely large, extremely expensive Kiseru pipe as an impromptu weapon is so ninja, yet not ninja at the same time. It's like, the one resource that Goemon has the most is cash, yeah, but instead of buying more sturdier and logical resources to craft his tools with, like Kama, Mandiki Kusari, Kusari Gama, and other ninja tools that were created from everyday items, Goemon goes, nah man, that's for poor people, and proceeds to use one of the most expensive everyday tools in the entirety of Edo for shinobi shenanigans. Can you understand why I call Goemon the most anti-ninja of all time? No,
Yeah, no
we
kidding.
ain't done. Because there's one other consistent weapon that Goemon uses
yo-yo?
throughout his games. Cold, hard,
Oh, the cash.
Does Goemon use hundreds if not thousands of ryo to purchase tools, armor, weapons, and the like? Nah, he just chucks entire gold coins of ryo at enemies. Like, really? I remember the one thing that Junichi Kawakami talked about when it came
Yeah,
to
true.
shuriken is that it wasn't smart to use them all the time because metal was really expensive. Alright, how about using a straight up Koban gold coin as a shuriken? And I know this might be going over some of your heads as to why this is so ludicrous, so let me just say that after several confusing financial conversions, a single Koban Ryo coin was worth $400 to $1,300 depending on the gold purity of the coin.
Whoa.
This is the equivalent of taking a car payment and chucking it at some guy's forehead to take him out. And it's like, dude, that's so much money. Any sensible ninja would use that money
Still
to
like
buy
four at a
more
time for what it
economical
looks
and
like in the counter
variable
there.
material to make shinobi tools of the trade. But then I think to myself, wait, if Goemon's greatest resource is money,
Why is he
then
going
isn't
away?
it ninja of him to use the one resource that he has to make his ninja tools out of? And in a twisted sort of way, yeah.
It works.
Just as the historical ninjas of Japan used farming tools, plants, and other everyday items that they had easiest access to and turned them into gear that they needed to do their shinobi work, Goemon's plentiful resources, just raw money and expensive items, So he said, screw it. He made those into his ninja tools of trade. Like, I'm still reeling from this. It's like the most ninja thing that I've ever seen, but also the most un-ninja thing that I've ever seen. And it's not just the money and the pipe, but everything that Goemon is in both the games and his actual folklore. It's like, he did so much by definition of what limited materials we have on Shinobi we would call a good ninja, but at the same time, there was so much that he did that he wasn't. But he was still really good at just being a straight-up ninja. I don't even know. And don't even get me started on Goemon's supporting cast. Ebitsumaru, Sasuke, even Yae. Yeah, they've all got questionable shinobi inspirations too, but I think I need to lie down. One quick thank you to Helix for sponsoring this video. If you or your loved ones are...
Yeah, it sounds like Goombas are really just... Ugh. Need a minute. I can't blame them, though. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed. Adios.